I think I'm gonna have to pull this jacket out for this video. Let's go.
Welcome everyone. Today I want to talk about the continuation of the ITN, where does SCAR stand, what do I see as far as the problems with the ITN continuing and whether or not we actually want the ITN to continue. So here at SCAR, I think that we're going to keep our nodes running. We want the ITN to continue. While I say that, I still have some questions and concerns as to, is this the right method going forward? If you missed the last episode of the Cardano Effect podcast or the previous one, I'm not sure when the next TCE episode will launch, but we had a special live episode with Charles and some stake pool operators, and we were discussing the schematics behind the ITN continuing and whether or not this is the way moving forward for Cardano. One of the questions that I did have moving forward is this whole idea of leaving value on other chains. And there's a reason why the intro for this video was showing this jacket. It's very symbolic of what my thoughts are for the ITN continuation, Billionaire Boys Club. So what do I mean by this? Bitcoin right now, it's the number one cryptocurrency, but you can also find cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin SV, which has, I don't know, a $3 billion market cap. You have Bitcoin Cash, which has like a $5 billion market cap. You have Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Super, various denominations of Bitcoin that have very large market caps. Bitcoin Gold and Bitcoin Super or Bitcoin Platinum, they each have like a $100 million market cap. And I think that while this is not analogous to what's happening right now, in the future, if we continue the ITN, and the ITN or the testnet ADA becomes a tradable token, which it wouldn't be hard to necessarily do, make this a tradable token, either by putting it on an exchange or small exchange, or you can even put it on a DEX and then start generating value. Once the community sees that there's value in this token, I feel like there will be value trapped within testnet ADA. And that may empower individuals or embolden individuals to fork the chain in the future, especially if it becomes very valuable. I'm sure many of you watching this video here believe that Cardano will become very valuable in the future. So will the same things happen with us where value will leak out into these forks because say testnet ADA becomes valuable, it becomes, even if it has a $100 million market cap or even a $10 million market cap or even $1 million market cap, it may embolden someone to continuously fork it. So we will have Cardano testnet ADA Classic and Cardano testnet ADA Gold and Platinum. And while I think that certain forks are very necessary, so like for example, this continuation of this fork or this ITN is very useful to the project because from what I understand, it's going to be used as a test bed in order to launch products and services or services on the Cardano platform. So we're going to be using this as a testnet ground or a battleground before we launch it on the mainnet. But at the same time, they can diverge over time and they can become two separate things. That's a possibility. And at the same time, people can recognize that there's value in the testnet ADA and repeat the process over and over again in the future. And ultimately taking some kind of market value from the main chain and putting it into smaller chains. If you add Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Gold and Platinum, I mean, you could be adding billions and billions of dollars to the market cap of Bitcoin, making it more valuable, and instead kind of drag some value out because you have people that believe that Bitcoin Gold is the correct one or Bitcoin Super is the correct one, and it may be, or Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV, and it may be. But we want to try to mitigate the risk of too many different chains. So while this is like an IOHK sponsored chain, in the future, this could set a precedent for people forking the network. So what do you think about that? What do you think about people forking the network in the future? And in addition, I have a question about how long will this be the battleground for future Cardano endeavors? And I know we have the Rust capable team, we have Rust engineers, and we have Haskell engineers. but we can't assume. Where's the funding going to come from? Like, for example, if this drags on for a very long period of time, what if the roadmap takes 3-5 years, or we add things to the roadmap that elongates the duration of the project? Are we expected to believe that the ITN is going to be funded in the same way that the mainnet is going to be funded? Are both of them going to be funded simultaneously? Where is the funding going to be coming from? Will it be coming from the treasury? Do we have enough? Is that where we want to allocate the funds? We can't assume that IOHK can bankroll 2 different chains for perpetuity. I know that they've raised a lot of money in the ICO periods, and they were able to use those funds, and they were able to extract a lot of value during that time period. But all money runs out eventually. So who's going to be funding? Will it be the treasury? Will it be what money we're raising in the treasury? Will it be certain projects that we're going to have to allocate money towards in order to get funding for projects within the testnet and then ultimately move that over to the mainnet? Are we double spending? And I'm not trying to make a pun here, like a double spend problem, but I'm saying, are we double spending? Are we spending more money than we have to? Or is this the correct path moving forward? I'm a small businessman. I'm always worried about where that next dollar is going to go and whether or not it is the best use for that particular dollar. So if we are looking at Cardano, or if we're looking at the entire project on a balance sheet, do we want to have so many different categories where it parses out the availability of the funds, and in the future that hurts the entire ecosystem because there's less funds to develop the ecosystem? Or we spend our money here, and then all of a sudden towards the end, when governance comes out, we have to kind of cut it short or quickly wrap it up because the funds are depleted. What's the case? And also, IOHK, Emergo, and Cardano Foundation, they're extremely big entities. They have extremely large ADA wallets. If funding runs out, we have to assume that they're going to have to tap into their own funds in order to sustain the project, and that ultimately will increase the selling pressure on ADA and may or may not affect the price. At the same time, I think that the testnet has its merits in the sense that certain things can be run on the testnet in order to prep it for the mainnet. But we have to assess everything when we're looking at this. Look at all the possible scenarios. And at the end of the day, let's talk about the testnet. The testnet, it's working well now. It is working well, but it's far from perfect. There are still some issues that have not been fixed since the beginning of the ITN. It's not a perfect network. And I'm going to go into a little bit about this and try to relate it to SCAR. SCAR supports continuing the ITN. However, SCAR does not believe that the ITN was a perfect platform or is a perfect platform right now.